Quick note before we start the show, we've done some digging in the past performances and uncovered a new angle. What we've found is that if you like and subscribe to the In the Money Media channel, whether it's wherever you get your podcasts or over on YouTube, you're guaranteed to pick more winners. In all seriousness, though, thanks everybody for your support. We have a ton of video content planned as we approach the Kentucky Derby, including our way too early predictions show from a couple days ago. And the best way for you to help us is to subscribe to our channel wherever you can. And you know what? Hey, if you're worried about missing content, sign up for our newsletter as well, inthemoneypodcast.com/email. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show for Friday, March 25th, covering global action on Saturday, March 26th. This is a fun Saturday annually because you get to start super duper early and go basically all the way through the night. And we're covering it all for you on this show. We're going to start out talking a little bit about Dubai, pivoting to the fairgrounds. Eventually, we're going to get over to the West Coast, actually the middle of the country first, with the big stuff happening at Sam Houston, out on the West Coast for the Golden Hour, and then late night into Japan. It's cool. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. And to kick it off with me, as we've been kicking off shows lately, though, hey, I've been in absentia the last couple of weeks traveling, but very happy, by the way, Peter Thomas Fornatale, to be back with you at the Brooklyn Bunker once again, and to be joined by TV's Matt Bernier. Matt, how are things?
Good, Pete. Like you say, it's always fun when you've got a genuine full day of racing, not just a couple hours in the afternoon, wherever you're located. You've got start to finish, East Coast, West Coast, doesn't matter. And you've got good quality racing at that. It's not just racing, it's quality racing.
And I'll tell you what, you could actually go even further and start off late Friday night with the great stuff happening down in Australia. We covered 3 of the group races there on our Good Oil podcast. And for those looking for more from some of the meets that we're only going to be covering briefly on the show, specifically the 2 you and I are talking about, Matt, with Dubai and Fairgrounds, we've got special shows for both of those. We've already posted to our Plus service Frank McGoey marking our cards for the Fairgrounds initiatives on Saturday. And his insight is great because he's been clocking there all meet. So with those maiden races that could be head scratchers, they become strengths, I think. And then we're going to have Michael Adolphson and also Eric DeCoster joining for a deep dive into the Dubai card. Be covering that, be recording that in a couple hours. Actually, funny enough, in the midst of the various segments you see on this show. But anyway, if those looking for more, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus is the place to go. But let's you and I dive in. Let's go in time order. I'm pulling a fast one on you, Matt, because I think I told you we were going to start with Fairgrounds, and that's actually what I have pulled up. But as I'm thinking about it logically, I think we should start in Meydan. Give us your overview of what you think of this as a betting card year in, year out. Will you get up and play the whole thing, or are you mostly going to be focused on these last 3 races that we're talking about, the 2 big turf ones and the big dirt one?
Mainly the last 3. I mean, you mentioned it before we started recording. There is an element of guesswork with a lot of these horses because it's just still so early in their seasons, and how many of them are cranked up and ready to go. How many of them have been pointing specifically for this, and they'll actually be a little bit fitter than maybe the form would suggest. I typically it's just my opinion. I look for a couple spots with random horses that I like. Some of them are logical. Some of them are total flyers. And I hope that I just happen to be right every once in a while. But I typically look toward the end of the card, and then we wrap up with the World Cup. And the good thing with the World Cup anyway, I feel like year in and year out, that has very clearly been a goal for many of these horses for quite some time. Very infrequently do you have a horse who something happens and they go, well, we'll pivot and we'll go to the World Cup. We'll send them to Dubai. These are all horses that are meant for this race. So you know what you're going to get in that spot. The 2 turf races prior to it, I think, I like one logical horse and one horse that's probably off the rails. But I think that's what makes these nights fun. Anything can happen.
Let's start off in race number 7, one of those big turf races. It is the Grade 1 Dubai Turf, going 1 mile and an eighth around Meydan. And I'll just start off nominating a horse that, at least from a USA morning line point of view, looks a bit overpriced to me based on his body of work, because he is a proven world traveler and a horse that's been plying his trade for a very, very long time. But this horse has finish, and I think he'll like the conditions. Lord Glitters is a little bit interesting to me, just seeing a horse that good listed at 15-1 on the morning line. I haven't checked the international prices or anything like that, but for international players looking for an each way opportunity, or USA players looking for a horse to mix into their exotics, I'm not sure that you're going to do too much better than a 15-1 Lord Glitters in a spot like this. But I know you've gone into this race properly, and very curious to get your thoughts on what's going to happen.
I guess just starting off from an American standpoint, Colonel Liam, I don't have any real knock against him. I think he's probably going to be tested pretty severely here from a class standpoint. I don't think that Pegasus World Cup in hindsight was particularly good. Never surprised, came back and bombed in his next start. Space Traveler, you and I loved him. Bit of a sickening defeat there. I don't know how he lost that race with a perfect trip and a perfect ride from Jamie Spencer.
Yes, I will acknowledge that. I will.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm underestimating him. I just think Colonel Liam's probably going to be up against it a little bit, especially with a 1-turn mile and an 8. That's not. That's a proper stamina test for some of these horses. The logical runners make sense. You look at Lord North, won this race last year, been gone for a little while, came back and prepped in that all-weather race at Lingfield. I expect him to run better here. You brought up Lord Glitters, makes all the sense in the world. I think Schnellmeister is one that you want to give a look to coming in from Japan. He's a German-bred horse, but he's got giant turn of foot in each of his last 2 runs. I ended up going with a horse that you're going to be familiar with, and feel free to talk me off. I think Harrovian, he's not a likely winner, but I think he's probably better than that last run in the Neom Turf Cup looks over at King Abdulaziz. It's a turf course that you need to be more forwardly placed. I know he was relatively close. He was a couple lengths off of it, but this will be his third start with blinkers, despite the fact that the PPs don't have it listed in that most recent run. He did wear blinkers, and I thought his run 2 starts back was a much improved effort. I know Pile Driver didn't run all that well over in Saudi Arabia, but I think a lot of that had to do with the draw and the turf course itself. And Harrovian, if you go back and watch the Neom Turf Cup, he loomed up at the top of the lane. He got within about a neck, and he just flattened out down. I think now a little turn back in distance, second off the bench, third time with the blinkers. Again, he's not the most likely winner, but he's going to be a giant price. So like you say, if you're sort of looking for an each way kind of play or something like that, maybe Harrovian can get a piece. He's 30-1 on the morning line.
I love that idea. There's a lot to like here when you're talking about a horse at that price. It's rare, very rare, that I'm ever going to say anything to talk you off one that's 30-1 or thereabouts in the wagering. And I mean, the key factor ran a bit, I thought, last time, like a short horse, which he had every license to be off that long layoff, is supposed to move forward here. Definitely questions about whether or not he's good enough to hang with these, but especially for one to try to get in the frame and get underneath. I think I'd say nothing negative about Harrovian. And you did mention 2 of the other logicals that I would want in my reckoning of this race, with Lord North, last year's winner, and then Schnellmeister, a horse we've talked about a lot with Klaus Ebner on our JRA broadcast. We're going to have Klaus in later, and in addition to looking at the JRA action Saturday night, he'll give us his views on some of these Japanese runners. I follow JRA more than I ever have, but I'm still always looking for that more institutional knowledge from somebody who follows it intimately like him to help me separate it. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not saying anything too crazy putting Schnellmeister at the top of that contingent, given that this is the runner that's 2-1 on the morning line. Anything else in this one, Matt, or should we move things along to our next race?
The only other thing I'd throw out there, and I may butcher the pronunciation a little bit, Panthalassa coming in from Japan. If you go back and watch that Nakayama Canyon, it's not typically a running style that I think of from an international turf horse. Went right to the front, opened up about a 7 or 8 length lead, got a little tired at the end, but hung on. If they use those same tactics, it'll be very interesting at the very least, because the horse is, again, when I think of a European turf horse or an international turf horse, I don't think of a speedball. I think of a horse that, wants to get some cover, sits back, waits, and comes with a kick. That was the complete opposite in that last run. And to be fair, maybe that's a change in tactics or whatever. But if they decide to go that route, you'll know this horse early.
For our official show notes, which we send around to those of you who are our In the Money Plus subscribers, I'm going to put you looking to focus your action on 6 and 11 and horses to include the 7, 8, and 12. Does that about sum it up for you?
I went 6, 8, 12.
Okay, 6, 8, 12. Okay, excellent.
The
6,
2
8,
Gosden
12
horses, and then Schnellmeister. I just think he's very, very logical in here.
Oh, that's how we'll put it in there then. 6, 8, and 12 for Matt, and that will move us along to race number 8 on the card, 11:55 Eastern. Remember, you got to get up early if you want to watch this card of excellent racing, and why wouldn't you? We've got the Group 1 Dubai Sheema Classic, a mile and a half. This was one of the key form lines of all last year, if folks remember, with Mishriff and Love's Only You in there, and we'll see if it proves to be as important of one this year. We've got Breeders' Cup form line intersection with Yabir making his return to the races. Matt, are you with or against?
I, I'm against, and maybe it's to a fault. I don't see it with the horse. I mean, I think he beat a bad group in the Breeders' Cup Turf. I think he beat a bad group in that run at Belmont Park. And prior to that, he was fine, but just fine. Maybe he's just far better than I'm giving him credit for. But Yabir's just not my cup of tea. And if he wins, I'll lose. So be it. Not the end of the world. Wouldn't be the first time. I'm curious your thoughts on the horse that I like in here. You've got a lot of really, first things first, a lot of quality in this race. I think between the Japanese shippers coming in here, you've got some good European runners, and then obviously you've got the local contingent. I went with Alan Kerr, and I don't know if it's being a little bit fooled by an all-weather race that, who knows if that's going to transfer against better horses, but I thought humbled Lord North. It looked like for a moment Lord North was ranging up on the far turn and got almost within a length. And then really as the race progressed, now granted, it was probably nothing more than a means to an end for Lord North for this spot in the Dubai Turf in the race prior. But I thought it was a really impressive effort from Alan Kerr at the end to kick away. And probably the reason I'm giving him a little bit more credit than maybe I should, he's a newly turned 4-year-old. And I think there's just a real chance that he's improving. And some of these other horses, while their established form is really strong, I think Alan Kerr could still potentially have a forward move. So maybe I'm being suckered into an all-weather performance, and he's not going to be able to transfer that against good quality grass company. But I want to give him a chance. He's 8-1 on the morning line. I don't know if that's going to stick or not, but I'm curious what you think of Alan Kerr. I also like that he's a little bit tactical, that he can be relatively close, and he's not going to come from 100 out of it. I thought he was interesting.
I like him a lot. I had 3 numbers written down here, and 9 for Alan Kerr was one of this. Now, part of this is out of deference to William Haggis, who's an amazing trainer, no less than Rob Dove, one of the top 10 pro punters in the UK today's favorite trainers is William Haggis. So that's there's a bit of praise and a bit of confidence that there's a plan here, and this isn't just a synthetic illusion. I mean, that was a very, very fast race, and to move up off of that. And then I think you hit the other key point. Alan Kerr shapes like a runner who's supposed to get better as a 4-year-old, sort of the same way. I feel like with dirt racing, typically when I'm using the time off figure improvement angle, typically it's for on the dirt horses early in their 3-year-old years, but it's absolutely relevant going from 3 to 4, and I think even more so with these international runners. So I think Alan Kerr makes a ton of sense. I've got in my lineup. I do think that Glory Vaz makes a ton of sense, but I'm also not sleeping on Pile Driver, who had a very difficult journey last time out, to say the least. And then you go back in the form lines, and it was just one length from Glory Vaz. So I was going to mess around 4, 7, and 9 here. Any other runners of interest to you?
I had Pile Driver second. That rung in the Hong Kong Vaz, maybe a little bit of a premature move, and Glory Vaz just came and ran him down. The Neon Turf Cup, again, wide on a turf course that you needed to be forward. I just don't think he was particularly comfortable at any point. Draw a line through that. Again, whether it is Glory Vaz, whether it is Authority is the one I ended up going with in third. It was just an unreal ride from Lemaire over in Saudi Arabia. I don't expect this horse to be ridden the same way. I mean, he's one that has come from a little bit farther off of it in the past, and that run 2 starts back, while he didn't win, again, there's no shame in losing to Contrail, who I think there's only been 8 Triple Crown winners in Japan, and he's one of them. So I have no issue with any of the Japanese contingent. I guess, and this is probably going to look stupid, I don't love the local horses. I'm not convinced with the Godolphin runners that they're necessarily as good as some of these. And I've said it at the top, if Yabir wins, I'll tip my cap and say I was wrong about him. He's better than I thought. But I think he's catching a pretty good group here.
I agree. I think Beer's presence might be making the market for some of these other runners. We've got 3 more races left to cover. Let's head straight to the Dubai World Cup. Really looking forward to the show we're going to do in a few minutes for the Plus service, going deep into all of these races. And curious if somebody out there, and maybe it's you, Matt Bernier, can help me get off the idea that Life is Good might just be better than these, and everybody else is running for second. Now, with exotic wagering, with the chance, some really good horses at double-digit odds in the international betting. There's certainly each way possibilities I can see. But in terms of just the win market, I feel like I'd sign off on Life is Good at 4 to 5 and be done with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't have anything cute. I mean, assuming he gets the distance, which I guess that is the unknown right now, is can he get 10 furlongs? He's faster than everyone else early. He's down on the inside. If for whatever reason he misses the break, yeah, all bets are off. You have no idea how that'll play out, but I don't expect him to. I think he's going to break sharp. I think he goes right to the front and he tries to take him gate to wire. I don't think the other horses in here that have early speed have the kind of early speed that Life is Good does. I just think he's a far superior animal. If you really are trying to nitpick, he hasn't gotten appreciably better from early on as a 3-year-old to this point. If you're really looking to nitpick on a fig standpoint, he earned a 107 in his third lifetime start. He earned a 110 in the Pegasus World Cup. It's still extremely fast. And if he continues on this trajectory, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he hasn't all of a sudden jumped up into a 120 range, is what I'm saying. And I just don't, I don't think there's anybody else in this race that's good enough to run with him. My opinion is going to be, not that I'm against Hot Rod Charlie, but I need him to prove to me that he's this good. I think he's a really nice horse, but I don't think he is a proper Group 1. I think he's kind of an underneath type in a race like this. Midnight Bourbon needs to be turned back in distance. If it doesn't work here, turn him back for the Churchill Downs on the Derby undercard or run him in the Met Mile. I'm more and more convinced each passing day that he's a 1-turn, 7/8 kind of horse. I think he's good going 2 turns, but he just doesn't have the finish. The opinion that I have along with Life is Good is that Country Grammar will run second. I thought it was a very, very gutsy performance off of such a long layoff, going a 1-turn mile and an eighth. He had no business to necessarily enjoy doing that, but he's a tenacious type. He's not a brilliant racehorse. I think he fits really well in here. He's got the ability to be reasonably close. He's going to be outfooted by the horse to his inside, but so will everybody else. And Baffert's numbers are unreal with this sort of move. Past 5 years, dirt route, second after a 270-day layoff or greater, 8 for 15, 12 in the money with a 373 ROI. I just think Country Grammar is to me, circle it. It's a cold exact. It's Life is Good over Country Grammar.
I'm told that's good. That type of ROI. That's not bad stuff at all. I'm with you. We've got the same numbers. We'll be very happy around noon on Saturday if this cold exacta comes in. I did want to throw in, just looking at the form and try to get creative about what could happen for third. And this is the potential horse for third that's never going to land a blow. Just maybe a late move to pick up some tired horses, especially if they go and try to win the race. I was a little interested in Aero Trem, the one runner in here this time around, making that second race off the layoff. I just didn't think that the run in Saudi was all that bad on a day where not a whole lot was expected. And again, this is just a little bit of a stab to have a little bit of a cold try in there. Or again, for international runners, for international bettors who have an opportunity to bet each way, you might see 100 to 1 on Aerotrem, which means you get a fifth of that to just hit the board. It's not the worst stab in the world for third, but you and I are together on the top of the tickets, looking 7-3 all the way for us in the Dubai World Cup. Let's pivot to these shores and head down to the fairgrounds. I mentioned before, we've got our Plus show up on that. I encourage everybody to check it out. I think it's probably Frank's insights are worth the month of Plus alone just to get this one show, let alone all the other stuff we have coming down the pike. We're just going to talk about the last 2 races, starting with the Fairgrounds Oaks. And you mentioned, Matt, that you didn't have a ton to say on this. So I'll give the listeners out here a sneak preview of the type of info you get when Frank McGoey joins us on In the Money Plus. And he's been out there clocking. His exact quote, and I think this was off air, but I'll give this away. He said, when Echo Zulu came back for her first work as a 3-year-old, he described her as looking like a butterball turkey. And he said in his eyes, she just hasn't done quite enough since. He's convinced she's not going to fire the best of what she's capable of. Of course, he acknowledges that less than the best of what she's capable of still could get her to win here. And I'll tell you what, if she does win here, I think everybody else is, going to be in trouble, because now I'm pretty confident she's going to be able to move forward from whatever she does here. But maybe this is the perfect opportunity to beat her. And I think the filly to try to beat her with is my old pal, Hidden Connection. And I don't just say that because of our friendship with the Black Type Thoroughbreds team. But Frank also mentioned that he thought she was short before the previous race. She had a trip in there, ran a bit like she was short, emptying out late. He loves how she's looked since and thinks she's ready to fire a big one. So he's all with Hidden Connection in this spot. I'm following him in. If I have some super strong opinions in longer exotics, I suppose I might put in a backup line on Echo Zulu, but I think the EV play is to oppose her and go on from there and see if we can get things done with Hidden Connection in the Fairgrounds Oaks. How does this one look to you on paper?
I mean, even if she is a little plump coming off the bench, I mean, she's just better than these horses. I mean, that's the long and short of it for me is I don't think the other girls are any good, and I think she's possibly a superstar. And even if she's in her, sort of B- kind of game, what race on the page from any of these other girls is remotely close? I guess, and I'm not trying to sound like a jerk to anybody, but I mean, Turner Loose has a best fig of 81, and that came in that Rachel Alexandra, which on paper, when you take a look at it, is kind of meh. Favor, I guess, is interesting because she's unexposed, but she's slow right now. She's just not nearly as fast as anything Echo Zulu did as a 2-year-old, and she's running as a 3-year-old. Berna Breezy, I don't think is good enough. Sequist, maybe you want to give her the benefit of the doubt that she needed one, but I wasn't impressed with that. And Hidden Connection, I guess, if you can convince me she's going to get back to the Pocahontas, she's in with a puncher's chance. It was such a perfect trip that day. And I thought she may have been short. I'm not going to argue with that about the Rachel, but I thought that was a pretty perfect trip too. And she didn't kick on at the end. So maybe you'll get a tighter version here this time around. But even if she gets back to that Pocahontas, I still think a healthy feeling plumper Echo Zulu is still just faster than that, isn't she?
It could well be. It could well be. But at the prices, I'm going to take my little shot against her, and we'll see. And then again, and I love that, even if it ends up leading us down a path that's not going to get us paid today, just having that info and knowing what we can expect from Echo Zulu coming forward from this, it's valuable stuff. All right, Matt, we just have a couple of minutes left. I feel bad. We're going to give a little bit of short shrift to the Louisiana Derby, but that's just the way that the cookie crumbles today. Who's your idea of the winner?
I think Epicenter goes right to the front again in this spot. I know Timeform US has got the pace projected to be a swift one. I guess I'm curious in that case, who's the one applying the pressure? Is it Zozos? Maybe it is. I think Zozos has the potential to be something. I look at the pedigree, and I know some people have come back, and I talked about it on my show earlier this week. They go, don't worry about it. There are many Munnings that go far. The forestry isn't a problem. I recognize and I respect that idea. I'm still terrified of it going out to a mile and 3/16, third time in 2 months that this horse is going to run, or in 3 months, rather. I think the horse is possibly something good, but boy, this is a lot to ask in a short amount of time. Again, Epicenter, I think you've seen the difference in the last 2 runs. When there's a breakneck pace, he's still really good and can almost get the job done. And when he's allowed to dictate things all on his own, he can go out there and make a field pay. I think he's just a really good racehorse. I really wanted to go with Rattle and Roll. I just don't know what to do with that run at Gulfstream. I know maybe the track doesn't work to his advantage. Maybe I overrated the breeder's futurity and the effort. I thought visually he was great last year as a 2-year-old. Maybe he's not as good as I thought he was. This is a quick turnaround, and McPeak's numbers with this sort of move aren't particularly strong. Past 4 years, dirt 1 to 21 days between. Second start off after a 145-day layoff or greater, 1 for 14, and only 2 of them have hit the board. I'll be very curious to see how he runs, but to me, it's Epicenter's race to lose.
The Epicenter show for you. He's my top selection as well. I think he's going to be able to boss this field. I don't know where he's going to fit down the line, looking at some of the other players on this Kentucky Derby scene, but I think he's the right one on Saturday. I think he's a likely winner to, odds on, or maybe not odds on, maybe even money. There are enough other ways to go. One I might try to keep on side is number 8 Galt, especially if the price is okay. This horse was not bet at all in the Fountain of Youth. So I'm wondering now, coming back off that effort, if you could end up seeing a nice double figure price once again. It's just a horse that's unexposed and I know has some talent. I'm curious to see what he can do with a clean run through. Do you give him any count at all?
I guess the tough thing is I don't know. I didn't love him going into the Fountain of Youth, but to be fair, I don't know that he didn't. Well, clearly he didn't get a fair shake with the way everything played out, falling down. The 2 starts back, I didn't love the Holy Bull, and frankly, I haven't loved the Florida form, period. But again, to your point, he is unexposed in a race where I kind of feel like I know what a lot of these horses are. If anybody could take a step forward, it could be a Galt, it could be a Zozos that we mentioned, and I don't want to totally ignore Call Me Midnight, who did win the Lecomte, who defeated Epicenter. I just thought it was with such an ideal setup that, maybe it'll happen again. But, I want to see this horse prove to me that he can overcome circumstances that are not ideally suited for his running style.
I agree. I would probably put him third if I was making 1, 2, 3 type picks. But it's almost by default, and just the fact that he has Epicenter on the form book, and there is a world in which the pace heats up, and going a mile and 3/16, a distance that Call Me Midnight isn't necessarily like built to love, but shapes like a horse who'll enjoy the extra distance. That's part of the Galt case too, just with the Medaglia d'Oro blood in there, thinking that the mile and 3/16 might be his friend. In terms of official picks, should I just list you as Epicenter, the 6 cold, or did you want to add anything to that?
Let's go all chalk, 629. Chalk.
Probably
Chalky
not the
and
race.
Weasel.
We've got the T-shirt for that. Probably not the race where you're going to be having your biggest bet of the day, but obviously one of great interest, especially with last year. This race sort of breaking the hoodoo. It hadn't been the most relevant prep for a lot of years, but that certainly changed last year with the now official winner coming out of it. Now that we can finally say that. Okay, I'm late for a meeting, and my head of sales gets cranky with me when I'm late, Matt. So I should jump. But we will talk to you very soon.
All right, buddy.
In the next segment, you're going to hear about the big night at Sam Houston on Saturday. Want to remind folks, there's still time to participate in this NHC contest. 2 seats being given away on Saturday, and there's no added entry fee. Your bankroll is all you need. You keep what you start with. It's $1,000 to play. For more information, check out shrp.com. Been so fun working with them all meet long. And to learn more about this exciting end of the meet, make sure you go to shrp.com. Up next on the show, a segment I've been waiting for quite some time. This is a very big night at Sam Houston. I was hoping to get down there. Life circumstances did not align to make that possible. So you folks who are going to be there are just going to have to play in the NHC contest without me. But it's a loaded card from top to bottom. I plan on playing it in the midst of my global wagering spree that's going to start Friday night and go all the way into early Sunday morning. But definitely one of the highlights this weekend is Texas Champions Day. To talk about it with us, we have from Sam Houston 2 of my favorites. We'll start with the woman whose birthday it just was, who I've had the pleasure of talking Australian racing with lately, but not as much with the Sam Houston stuff. Jessica Paquette, how are you?
I'm great, Peter. How are you?
Life is good. And joining us with his excellent opinion on Sam Houston, he does a fantastic job as the race caller when he remembers to turn on the microphone. He is Nick Tammaro. Nick, how are things?
I'm doing great, Pete. Last night I went through all the prices, set up the next race, looked down, and the mic wasn't on. So I'm still doing that on occasion.
That is my great, I have many fears when I step into the booth, subbing in and doing things. Like I'll get nightmares a couple of days leading up to announcing. It's really fun. But turning on the microphone has never been the problem. That is never the thing.
Yeah, it seems like a unique bad characteristic of mine. And because, of course, we use that headset that's from somewhere around 1994 when the track opened.
Awful.
there's no information coming into it. So I've let the TV department know if a race ever starts and you don't hear a race call, you immediately call me, because the mic is not on.
So my greatest fear is having the mic on and like saying something terrible, because I came from New England with Jim Hannon, who may have had a major slip on a hot mic at one point.
Yeah, luckily I've had no brushes with that, but generally I try not to talk in the booth very much anyway. So and I will not take a call if I've even got the headset on. So we'll see. Anything could happen.
We got to get you a nice pair of Sennheiser cans or something down there. It definitely sounds like you're in need of an upgrade. Maybe you can offer to get it yourself with the money we win betting on this card on Saturday night. It's a stakes-laden card, as it's meant to be. And we're going to kick off our coverage. We're going supersized this week. We're going to go all the way back to race number 2, where we've got the Richard King Turf Stakes going 1 mile and an eighth. Nick, we're going to start off with you. Got a heavy favorite to contend with in here. What do you think is going to happen?
It looks as if the throne, now the belt, so to speak, belongs to Singapore Flash in this division. We came into this year looking to see if there would be another round of Sunlit Song, Mujab Jr. matchups, and Singapore Flash really rained on the parade going all the way back to January. He ran a really good race to beat Sunlit Song in a prep for the Houston Turf, came right back and won the Houston Turf, upsetting Sunlit Song again. And in doing so, he actually scared Sunlit Song away. He ran against Open Company a couple of weeks ago in lieu of going here, and now Singapore Flash looks like the undisputed champion of the division, which he should really firmly cement himself as tomorrow night, in my opinion. I think he's a particularly dangerous horse because of his early speed. He's got good tactical speed. He should really be in control of this race from the start, and I'm expecting it to be a pretty facile victory.
Jessica, any dissenting opinion or perhaps a longer price to go with Singapore Flash?
I think all roads lead to Singapore Flash here, who his race last time out was my favorite race of the meet. If folks watching have not seen it, go pull up the replay. It's everything good in a horse race. Neither horse deserved to lose, but I'm going to use Stan's Hook and Bull on the underside of my exotics. I think he can get a piece at a generous price. This is one of those horses kind of always in the thick of things, and I like that he's making his third start of the season. He's continuing to round into form. Is he good enough to win? I don't think so, but I think he's good enough to get a piece.
Okay, fair enough. A little 6-1 action to get things started, and maybe a nice single for our various horizontal bets. Let's talk about race number 3, the Spirit of Texas Stakes, 6 furlongs on the dirt. This time around, Jessica, we'll keep it with you.
I'm eating some chalk here as well. Mr. Moneybag's a really fun horse to root for. He's a 12-time winner, under a length short of being a perfect 5 for 5 here at Sam Houston. It is worth noting, Greeley and Ben, the winner of the Stoner Side Sprint, won a tough starter allowance at Oaklawn and was recently third in the Whitmore Stakes. So zero shame in losing to him.
Nick, how about you? Are you with the heavy favorite here as well?
Yeah, very little to add there. I thought he was, he's just better than these horses, and wonders of his love at one point in his career probably could have been competitive. He's kind of restarting things now for Frank Lucarelli. He'll set the pace, and I'm sure Mr. Moneybags will just sit there in second, ready to pounce. Worth noting also that Jalen Clary's had a couple of long shots run really well the last couple of days, so it looks like the barn's heating up a tad, and not as if she needs to be on any kind of hot streak to get Mr. Moneybags home. This looks like it should be a pretty easy spot for him.
Race number 4 is the Groovy Stakes, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Jessica, we bring this one by your special request. What note did you have in here?
So I think Legally Lethal is a really, really nice horse. He was pretty green in his debut, and he looked like a horse in his next race where he just put it all together. Sometimes with these young horses, you see kind of a light bulb go on in the middle of the stretch, and he figured out the job. It's worth noting, he beat a horse named Grammy's Boy last time out, who came back to absolutely demolish the competition yesterday. I didn't like him yesterday. I was trying to be clever and beat him. He could not have been more impressive or done it easier. So Legally Lethal, I think he is one of my stronger opinions on the card.
It's a great name. It's a nice form boost, and it's a little tricky to say. So
I'm glad the real announcer's calling that one, not me.
Nick Tammaro, have you had any trouble with that one?
I didn't. I'll tell you, he flew out of the gate last time, so it was actually pretty easy to spot him. And I like Josh's Dream that night, and Legally Lethal took it to him right away. I like Lucky Special in here. I picked Legally Lethal second, so I have no issue with him at all. But Lucky Special has run I thought 2 pretty good races against Open Company. And now, instead of being kind of the hunted on the inside, he gets to be a little bit more of the hunter on the outside. So I think those 2 really could make for an interesting showdown. You have the winner of the Jim's Orbit, too, Chief Brady, who's now in the care of Mindy Willis after he got a really slick ride from Jansen Melanson to come through on the inside and take control of that race on the turn. Both of the 3-year-old races, the filly half of which we'll talk about in a little bit, look like really fun and competitive races.
Race number 5, we've got a 1.16 mile turf race in the San Jacinto Turf Stakes. Nick, let's get your thoughts on this one, this field of 8 going postward.
Yes, and of course, we won't ask you any Texas history about, as we call it, the San Jacinto down here, but it is the San Jacinto, what happened in the Battle of San Jacinto. But I went for a little bit.
I want to hear now. I want to hear now.
That was where the Texas Army defeated the Mexican Army, and they chanted, "Remember the Alamo, remember the Alamo."
There you go. I should have. I knew the Alamo was going to have something to do with it.
The more you know.
Yes, absolutely. The more you know, exactly. So Texas history
Texans are Texans first.
Yeah, exactly right. They're taught Texas history at least 3 times in school here.
But did I say, is what I just said though basically the equivalent of calling it Versailles, Kentucky? I mean, do you say it?
Oh no, it's Jacinto. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. We just down here it just in common parlance becomes San Jacinto. Right. So that's what it ends up as. But so I went for a slight upset of No Mas Tequila with Discreet Smile, who's coming back off a layoff, was actually entered in an allowance race a couple of weeks ago, didn't end up going, back in the care of Johnny Johnston for the late Larry Stroop, who unfortunately passed away at the beginning of this meet. Discreet Smile has a slew of races that are good enough to win this. It's just a recency problem, right? She's not been out since September. I thought actually her last race before the layoff was fine. The problem that I have from a betting perspective is last time was the time on No Mas Tequila. Right, she was 10-1. She got a huge setup. She won for fun, and now she's going to be 6-5.
Yeah, so I didn't have her then, and I'm not going to have her at this short price.
Yeah, I have to pick against those horses. I have to pick against those horses, so that's why I wanted to take a little bit of a swing. And I thought the 2 alternatives were the 2 and 7. I would use the 1, 2, and 7 probably on any multi-race play, and might even try and hit the 7 one more time.
Okay, I like the sound of it. Jessica, sounds like you are with Nick in being against the presumptive favorite of the spot. Where are you going to go?
So number 3, Rosie Jane. I am fascinated to see this horse on turf. She's by Court Vision out of a mare named I Am Jane Doe, who is a true local 2-turn turf horse. She won the Richards King Stakes, and this horse didn't seem like much last year. I remember actively not being impressed by her. And with some time to develop the surface switch, I think this is going to be one of those Steve Asmussen, Stuart Elliott horses that win at a reasonably big price, and everyone then goes, how did I miss that one? Well, here it is.
Okay. I like the breeding angle there on number 3, Rosie Jane. Any that you want to come with, or are you going to be focused there?
I'm really focused on her. I like this filly a lot.
That's where the pick 6 begins in race number 5, 8:55 Eastern time is the scheduled post time for that one. We'll move on to the Yellow Rose Stakes, 6 furlongs with $100,000 in the pot for these fillies and mares. Jessica, where are you going to go in here to kick off our late pick 5?
I think this race is going to be pretty hotly contested on the front end with Lady Ave, I'm a Discreet Lady, Bernie, who I don't like, but I think she'll be a part of the early pace. So I'm going with She's Our Fastest. I think Richard Armia should be able to sit right off of what could be a pretty toasty pace. She has a little tactical speed, but she can rate, and I think that'll really work to her advantage.
Nick, where are you in the Yellow Rose?
Yeah, I picked She's Our Fastest as well for the exact same reason. It looks like they're going to move on the front end. Lady Ave only has one way to go, and it puts I'm a Discreet Lady in a bit of a tough spot being on the rail. Rye Eichelberry going to have to work out a trip. Bernie, as Jessica said, should be actively involved in the pace. And even Metallic Silver, who's kind of cheap, but has a lot of speed, right? So she's going to force things along even more. And this feels like a race that's really going to get hot on the front end. And She's Our Fastest really should sit back and be waiting in line to gather them in. If it was 2 starts ago for Lady Ave, I would be a little concerned that she could wire this field. She has not looked as good in her last start. She didn't look quite as good. She didn't really look as good 2 starts back. Her first start of the Sam Houston meet was sensational. So we'll see if she's able to run back to that fun race.
Race number 7 is the Barra Last, 6 furlongs, 100,000 for the 3-year-old Texas bred fillies. Nick Tammaro, who's your idea of the winner?
I have what will probably be a bit of a long shot pick here, but there's a lot of speed in here too. And I think that's going to work to the advantage of somebody that's coming from a little bit off the pace. I'm also, as Jessica and I talked about last night when we ran the replay of the 2 Altizano from February 19th, I don't like the 1, 2, 3 finishers from that race. So I want a fresh face. She's coming back on short rest, but I'm a Sky Traveler, had a real trip last time out. Depending on when you downloaded your PPs, the running line is in there. The buyer figure might not be. In fact, the ones that I'm using, the buyer figure is not in there for her last start. But she hopped at the start, spotted the field some ground, ended up having to make an early move, and really fought on nicely all the way to the finish. Those were older horses. These are straight 3s. Cutting back, she's going to be able to sit back and make one run, and I think that could make all the difference. I think Talanda is the horse to beat. I think she's probably the speed of the speed as well, but knowing and getting a little bit more familiar with how Rye Eichelberry rides speed horses, I think he'll just station her right outside the other speeds, and she will end up in many ways being the horse to beat. I actually also liked the other J.R. Caldwell horse, Texas Ascot Queen, more so than Jan's Turn to Win, but it's worth noting that his main man, Lane Luzzy, opts for Jan's Turn to Win.
4, 8, and 7, it sounds like, are the numbers you'll be looking to play in the horizontals.
Yes, exactly.
Jessica, how do you see it?
Kind of a different way. I went with the 5 Moro Lingerie, kind of judging a horse by the company they've been keeping. Maiden Win shaped up to be a pretty key race. The thing I actually like most is that she's had a little bit more time since that last race. Obviously has some talent, but she didn't strike me as this big strapping type of horse. And sometimes those horses, when you start running them, every 2 or 3 weeks, their weight starts to fall off of them pretty quickly. And I bet with a little time between races, she'll come in a little fuller.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Any to come with or a 1-number situation?
I like Texas Thunder a little bit too. Really precocious. Has a little tenacity too. She's going to have some company out front, obviously, but I like that she can fight back a little.
Race number 8 is next on the card. We go back to the turf. We've got a field of 11 for this maiden special weight affair that kicks off what will be our final pick 3 of the night. Jessica, what did you think about this race?
This is an interesting race. I'm going with what could be a little bit of a long shot, Alligator Crawl. And I know that debut effort was really not good, but I almost like to see a horse have just an abysmal debut effort because the only way to go is forward a little bit. By Mr. Bessilu out of a Smart Strike mare. So there's turf influence and stamina influence every which way in the pedigree. Maybe the surface switch wakes him up in a big way.
All right, very creative. This one, 48-1.
Creative is a very nice way to put that.
I love the two. No, I mean I get the turf play though. Second time starter turf play and a different circuit. There's some things. There's some things going on. I wouldn't be in the hurry to stand over the way or talk you off at what figures to be a double figure price once again. Nick, what did you like in here?
Yeah, there's nothing like a Texas bred turf route for 3-year-olds where over half the field's never been on the turf, right? It's very, and there's not much pedigree to speak of. There generally isn't. Alligator Crawl's won 3 times on the turf, so that is one of the better turf pedigrees. Mr. Bessilu has a 1 turf debut winner. I picked that horse 3rd. I chalked out. I picked I'm a Big Bopper. He improved quite a bit last time out. Looks like with more experience, he's getting better and certainly stretched I'm a Sky Traveler right to the wire. I think between he and the 10 Lost Gold, I'll use the 6, 9, and 10 because I think Alligator Crawl is interesting enough second time out. So I'm going to try and keep it simple. These are the kind of races, though, that you run a big risk trying to keep it simple.
Fair enough. We're back to stakes action in race number 9, the Star of Texas, going a mile on the dirt. We've got who did you install as the morning line favorite here, Nick? It looks like you went with Gold Pilot, the 6 runner. Do you think this is one where you want to focus on the horses who are going to be at the top of the market, or a place to maybe get a little bit creative?
Well, everybody's been telling me how Gold Pilot is not going to be the favorite, so I'm anticipating that the betting will be all over the board. So my thought here was that this race looks like it has a lot of speed, and I felt like Gold Pilot was probably the most reliable off the pace type. I like Can I Bob, who I think is going to get a really good trip from just off the pace, and I love the 2 recent 5 furlong drills to sharpen him up and to give him a little bit of stamina. So I think he's a great fit 3rd off the layoff. Algebra looks like he's going to get a lot of support at the windows too. And Algebra's run 2 really, really good races in a row. I can't say enough about the improvement that he's shown since he got claimed. And obviously this barn, high percentage barn anyway, had an eye on this kind of thing happening. So I don't have an argument with anybody who wants to back Algebra, but I just worried that he'd get a little hooked up in the pace. But it feels like a race where the favorite will probably be around 5-2 or 3-1 if the race holds together. And I could see 3 or 4 horses winning.
What's your official numbers for me to pop down in our notes for the?
I would loan the 8, and then the main horses that I would use as backups are the 3 and 4.
Okay, 8, 3, and 4, and you don't disrespect. It doesn't sound like the 2 or the 6 either. So a lot of different ways to go.
A lot of ways to
in this spot. Is it as open as this, Jessica, or do you have a stronger opinion?
This is one of my favorite races on the card. Number 3, Algebra. He is one of the horses of the meet for me. The way this horse has thrived under the J.R. Caldwell barn, he looks better every time he comes out, and he's running as well as he looks. He'll have pressure on the lead, but I think he's in the form of his life right now. I also really like Bobby Brinkley, the 4. I think there's a little bit of an upset potential there. And we don't body shame here, but he was a little heavy last time out. He looks like a horse that may be a little tough to get truly fit. He carries a lot of mass on him. And I think third start off of a layoff, he might be kind of racing himself fit, heading towards a peak performance. I love the 2 start sprinting, stretching out to a route. I also won't entirely throw out Direct Dial. He is a cool, honest veteran. Maybe the stretch out will wake him up. I don't think he's the same horse he's been, but I'm not leaving him off any tickets.
You're making me feel very bad about earlier in the show passing along some insight from a clocker that a certain Grade 1 winner looked like a butterball turkey upon her return to the racetrack.
You have to find ways to say these things in a nice way.
She was carrying her condition, might have been a better way to describe Echo Zulu. Anyway, she's probably going to win by 10.
She's a fuller filly. That's all, fuller filly.
Oh, my goodness gracious. All right, we've got one more race at Sam Houston to discuss on this Saturday night card. It is an allowance race. It goes as race number 10, 11:25 Eastern. You play this one and you get ready for the JRA stuff. It's going to be a ton of fun. 5 furlongs on the turf. All these late horizontals pay off in here. Nick Tammaro, I'll start with you. How are we going to get paid?
I think this race is pretty loaded with speed, and I went back to Baloo's Gold, the 9, who won 2 back. Richard Aramia stays in the irons, and he gets back to the turf. This horse got a great trip 2 starts ago, but it had a lot to do with the setup, and I think the setup's going to be there again. So I wasn't overly clever. I like Mindy Willis in turf sprints in general, and I'm going to use the 7 Captain St. Jacques. Had a good trip last time out on the inside, I think, when the rail was the place to be on the turf, but now cuts back in distance, and going back to some of those 5/8 races that he's run in the past at Sam Houston, those were good enough to me. I have one opinion in this race. You need to be all in both fists against Bedouin Fighter. Bedouin Fighter is going to be horribly overbet. He beat an absolutely atrocious field, riding a huge inside bias on that turf course. So it's just about finding the right alternatives to me.
That's like a major handicapping point when you're handicapping Sam Houston. You can't play all of these short price Steve Asmussen, Stuart Elliott horses. You're going to get beat by a lot of them, and you have to pick your spots and pick which ones to take a stand against.
Right.
Where do you go in terms of the top of your ticket here, Jess, to close things out?
I'm with Nick with Baloo's Gold. I just think Mindy Willis on the turf is sort of a no-brainer here. I also like number 13, More Like It. Had a really atrocious trip last time out. His prior form's been actually pretty solid, and I think with a little luck, he'll be okay. Also, number 6, Hooves Your Daddy. I feel like I've talked about this horse like 17 times, and he's only ran twice. He keeps scratching when races come off the turf. I liked his maiden win. He took to the turf really well. He gets a class test here, but I'd really like to see him actually run.
Well, maybe that'll happen on Saturday night. Now, this is our last show for a while for Sam Houston on the Players Podcast, but it does sound like, Nick, you're going to be able to do something about one of the other cards this weekend. What do you have in mind?
Yeah, we're going to do we're going to do some content the last couple of weeks of the meet. So hopefully we'll have a carryover or two to discuss. We might have a carryover for this card as well. We have a little one going into Friday night, and tonight's card's pretty tough. So, but yeah, we'll have some, this will be on YouTube, of course, and then we'll have another podcast, probably Blake, Jesse, and I coming towards the end of the meet. So it's been a fun season, and we're really happy to have had In the Money Media as a partner. And of course, we have the NHC contest tomorrow night, the qualifier on this particular card, $1,000 live bankroll entry fee. Obviously, you keep what you have left at the end, and top 2 finishers are headed to Vegas. Where they'll see me. The newly rescheduled date is perfect.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, wait, what is the date now? I don't think I even saw
March 10th through 12th of 2023.
Oh, you're kidding. It's that late.
It's that late, yep. I think they're trying to avoid cancellations and whatnot.
Does that mean I'm calling the races that weekend?
There will be somebody calling the races indeed. Yeah, no, I was just so glad to see the date. And of course, Frank Hoff at Sam Houston rained on my parade and said, well, I knew what date it was going to be last week.
Oh, that's so funny. Now I got to see when Cheltenham is, because there's a non-zero chance I can't make it that weekend. We'll see what could happen. I always have fun out there.
Just pencil me in the booth.
We'll get that figured out. Jess will be on the mic. Nick will be handling the dinner, taking care of the dinner duties out there in Las Vegas. Actually, I'd pretend like I did that. I didn't at all. I was just a consultant to our man Eric Bialik. Anyway, enough of that. We will let you guys go. We've got folks waiting in the green room to talk about another great bet. But as far as the NHC contest goes, seriously, on Saturday, best place for folks to get info, shrp.com, Nick, anything else?
shrp.com, yep. Right. Yeah, if you're in the area, still time to sign up all the way until tomorrow night.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, guys. We'll be talking soon.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Good luck, everybody.
Coming up in the next segment, you're going to hear us go over Saturday's Golden Hour Pick 4 and Double. But just a reminder, this is one of our favorite bets in racing, and it happens every day that both Santa Anita and Golden Gate are running. You've got player-friendly terms with the 12% low takeout, and you've got those higher minimums, which decrease the edge that the computer players have over you. We encourage that you check it out every day. The Golden Hour Pick 4 from Santa Anita and Golden Gate Fields. Next up on the show, as promised, we've got coverage of one of my favorite bets, the Golden Hour Pick 4, the Golden Hour Double, and bringing in two of my favorite Southern California handicappers to talk about. They don't just do Southern California, but when it comes to all things Southern California, I always like to hear what they have to say. Each is associated with a really cool product you should be taking a look at. Let's start with the man below in the bottom of the triangle here. If you're watching on YouTube from TripNotePros, he is Benny Southstreet. Benny, what's going on, my man?
How are you, gentlemen? It's good to be with you.
It's good to have you, and it's good to have the internet working. I didn't consciously put you in the penalty box after that those tech issues we had the last time you were on, but it's sort of played out that way. But it was unintentional, and it's good to have you back. How are things going with TripNotePros?
Things are excellent. We've got a few things going here that are pretty cool. We actually we're live on TVG's website right now. So if you have an account with them, we're in the quick links section. Everything's free. You just click on you'll see our little icon on there, and you'll get access to the free product. And then got two pretty cool things going with Santa Anita and Keeneland as well. For the entire month of April, product will be free. All you have to do is head to their website, click on our logo, should be in the handicappers section. I don't have those exact URLs yet, but it's easy to find. And once you opt in, you'll receive an email every day, and you'll get the product for the entire month. So excited about all three of those things.
And any questions you can direct on Twitter to @BSouthstreet, which you'll see if you're watching on YouTube, but not if you're listening. Benny and the team do a great job doing the work so you don't have to. And a perfect complement to TripNotePros is a product we've talked about a whole lot on these airwaves, gives you the tools of a computer player and puts them right in your hands. A very fast way to analyze races with proprietary metrics that have become essential to the work that I do over at EquinEdge. And from EquinEdge, we have a noted tournament player, Scotty McKeever. Scotty, how's it going with you?
Very good, very good. It's good to be with you guys. Ryan, I miss you, brother. We got to get out and hit the clubs. I don't think I've golfed since the last time you and I golfed, so I know you're over in Arizona. Scottsdale is one of my favorite areas, by the way, too, and so many good golf courses. What's the weather like over there, as a matter of fact?
It's nice right now. It's beautiful. It's warm, high 70s, low 80s. It's makes staring out the window a little difficult.
Too many trips to do to get out and swing those clubs at the moment. But you'll find enough hours in the day. I believe in you. Let's talk about this Golden Hour Pick 4, gentlemen. It kicks off with race number 8 at Santa Anita on Saturday, 7:44 p.m. Perfectly timed to be playing this in the midst of this excellent Sam Houston card as part of this international spree of racing we have, starting late Friday night on the East Coast and going all the way into Saturday morning with the JRA stuff we're going to talk about in a bit. But the Golden Hour Pick 4 kicks off with race number 8. It's a starter allowance going 7 furlongs. And Benny, let's start off with you and your thought on how you want to get this candle lit.
Well, I'm 3 deep in this leg, and one of the horses I thought had a perfect trip, and that was Finestra. But I just think this horse is really, really sharp right now and should be able to work out a good trip This guy Saran has just been scorching hot. He's been white hot the entire meet, and continues to stay that way. So I'll be using Fenestra. I do think there's some upside with I'm Corfu as well. They're coming out of the same race. I do think that's a rather strong race. I thought this horse got a very bad ride last time. Try not to blame jockeys too much, but if you watch this one on tape, horse was clear by 2 lengths and could have gone much faster. And he just sat back in the saddle and guzzled, and the whole field came to him, and he was left resisting for like the last 3 furlongs. So I think he's got some upside. The one that I like the most is actually California Street. California Street, while it does look like this horse had a perfect trip last time, there were some horses doing the dirty work up front. There was a strong front-running bias that day. So I just can't make my way around that track bias. If things do get heated up early, I think he's the most logical closer. So I'm 259 in that race, probably with the 2 as being my strongest of the 3.
Scotty, let's bring you in. I always love it with your guys' as different tools and tool sets. You agree. Is there agreement here with Benny's ideas, or do you have your own thoughts in Santa Anita's 8th?
No, we're pretty much on the same page, although I'm going to try to beat both the 5 Fenestra and I'm Corfu the 9. And I'll tell you why. So Fenestra, was outside of I'm Corfu last time out. So I'm Corfu had the rail, did get the lead and cleared and then stopped. I didn't like that at all. But I think, though, that I'm Corfu, who is now trained by Doug O'Neill off the claim, I think is going to be on that outside post, is going to put pressure on the 5. And I don't think that Abel Cedillo is going to necessarily just clear, going to probably put pressure over there and not let JJ Hernandez just kind of put pressure on him. So for that reason, I think the 6 horse Charge Cash is fast as well. Clearly the 5, though, and the 9 are the fastest horses in the race. There's no doubt about that to me. 6 is kind of fast as well. Edgar Paris aboard seems to need the lead for his best as well. So what I'm doing is I think Fight On is an interesting horse here. I think the 3 horse can sit behind those 3 horses on the lead, clear from or get a nice trip from the inside, and then get first run on those front runners if good enough, unless they get away. And that's certainly a possibility. I don't think the 6 horse Charge Cash can win the race. So I think Paris is going to have to send. And by far the best closer in the race is California Street, the 2 horse. Believe it or not, I'm going to try to get by. And I mean try to get by with the 2 California Street and the 3 Fight On.
I, from a race design point of view, can see what you're saying, and from the pace figures, everything you guys are saying makes sense to me. So I get your approach of trying to get out with the 3 and the 2 here. Benny going with the 2, 5, and 9, thinking the race might hold together a little bit more than Scotty does. Let's pop up north for Golden Gates, race number 8, leg B of this Golden Hour pick 4. We've got fillies and mares, $20,000 claimers going 5 furlongs on the turf. Scotty, your turn to kick this one off.
Well, there's certainly a lot of pace in this race. Ali's Pal, the 7 horse, is very fast for Jonathan Wong. 3-1 on the odds makers morning line, but 10-1 on the EquinEdge morning line. So I'm going to take that as a negative. Cheap from the rail. The 1 horse is going to send, probably needs the lead for its best. Trina, I am using the 3 horse, going to be your favorite in the race. And this one is fast as well. So I couldn't key this horse because I think this horse might be one of those horses that needs a lead for her best as well. So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of pace up front. I did spread, but I do think a horse that's going to come from behind is going to most likely win the race. And I will tell you who got to watch out for it. 8-1 on the morning line is Crown Kitten, the 6 horse for Bill McLean. Pedro Torrero jumps aboard and it gets off the 5 horse. But I'm going to use the 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8, leaning towards closers in the 6 Crown Kitten and the 8 horse Ion Tiger, who's 12-1 on the EquinEdge morning line.
All right, so let me see if I got this right. Looking to sort of on the top line of your ticket, your preferred runners would be the 3, 6, and 8, but then you also wanted to use the 2 and the 5. Did I get that right, or did I miss one?
No, that's correct. I'm spreading out there. I think the race is wide open, and one of the reasons I think that, besides the pace, is that Trina, who's going to be the favorite, is 31% win percentage. And I'm not sure. I think this horse could be compromised from the inside with probably needing the lead for its best. And there's some really fast horses. 1 and 7 are going to be on the lead. And 3 with that 31%, if you take that out, now all of a sudden you're looking at the top win percentage being 15% and the 5 horse Queen on the track. So queen of the track. So I think this race is wide open. So I'm going to take some closers here. I can't throw out the 3 horse. So of the front runners, though, I think the 3 is better than the 1 and 7. So, but I again, 1 and 7 are extremely fast, and they could get away.
All right, let's see how it plays out. Benny, any more clarity from you in this one?
I agree with Scotty. I do think there's a huge injection of pace, and I landed on the same 2 most logical horses. I don't like the race, if I'm being honest. I didn't like either of the Golden Gate races. I think they're difficult. I'll probably end up singling in this race, just because I feel like if I get my single home, I've got a chance to connect the other dots. So I'll probably end up singling the 6 in this race.
Okay. Well,
Wow.
Who else would be in your big spread? But I get what you're saying, right? Because just from a wagering theory strategy point of view, in these golden hour bets, if you blow up here, you come back and you play the double if you have a stronger opinion in the other 2 races. So sometimes you can identify a race as a spread race and still want a single just from an equity point of view, because a lot of times also when you see it as a spread race, everybody's seeing it as a spread race. So if that's where you can get narrow, you can pick up serious equity. So I love that from a game theory point of view. Just recap, if you were to take a spreadier approach, who the other numbers would be that you'd want included, Benny.
You know, I may. So here's the problem for me. This is just a personal thing, but I can't tell you how many times I've used 4 horses because, you know, it's a 6 or 7 horse field and I've missed.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm using 4 is because I don't like the race.
Yeah.
The double factor is huge, right? So if you use 1 more horse, you're doubling the cost of your ticket. If I were to add another one, I would use the 3. You know, I'd probably go 3 and 6, but yeah, it just really is a race that I don't like. You could use all and maybe single a race that you do like, but I'm not a big fan of that either. So probably 3 and 6 would be the most likely to. But again, you're doubling the cost of your ticket, which is, you know, from a bankroll and ticket writing perspective, probably not the best thing to do.
Oh, you're better off singling, given your opinion in the race. I was just holding your feet to the fire.
Yeah, I know.
Might have some stronger opinions elsewhere and not be able to be costing themselves so much. But let's zip back down towards Southern California, Arcadia Way, for this 3-year-old filly allowance race going 6.5 on the turf. It is on the downhill turf. Very interesting race. We've got a full field of 11. Benny Southstreet will keep it with you.
Well, I'd be surprised if one of these 3 horses didn't win, and they're all logical from a race replay standpoint. And I think one of them's coming out of the strong race. That would be number 9, Delmona. You know, she just had. Sometimes you see the comment off slow, and you look and you're like, okay, this horse lost a length, maybe close to 2. This horse was all but eliminated at the start, lost 3 lengths at the start, blasted off. Showed a ton of speed, ran down into a pocket, and then got put on hold, eased around the speed, and then began dueling in between. And if not for Rispoli threatening this horse right-handed and suffering a lug-in late, probably would have won anyway. Delmont is a potential single for me. I will be using a couple of others that also had very bad trips, one of those being I Got a Gal. I Got a Gal's maiden breaking score was, I think I've mentioned this before on your podcast, the Secretariat in the Preakness, where the horse goes from last to first in the first turn. That's exactly what happened to I Got a Gal in that maiden score, and she had a miserable trip last time as well. She's kind of a head case, and she makes a mess of the start. She did in her last time coming down the hill as well. They're giving her another chance, but because that maiden score was just so strong, I will be using I Got a Gal. In fact, that main score, she galloped out in front as well, even on the gallop out, even though she probably ran so much faster in that second quarter than everybody. They never got past her, even on the backstretch. So she's a use for me as well. And then Graceland Gray, another one, just an absolute miserable trip. In fact, let me get to the note here, and I can give you a closer view. I wrote everything went wrong in this race. She was off slow. She was bumped back and forth. She was pulling away, trying to recover. She was uncomfortable. She was shuffled, which doesn't show in the PPs at all. It cost her another length or so. Just a miserable trip overall. She got a ton of highlights from us. trouble not in the PP. She was uncomfortable. She galloped out strongly, and she may have been best in this race. So the 6 is a use for me as well. 5, 6, 9, potential single on the 9 Delmona.
Scotty, let's bring you back in for your thoughts on Santa Anita's nightcap.
All right, so we've got an allowance optional claiming for 100,000 fillies, 3 years old. By the way, I love these purses over at Santa Anita, but they're going down the hill 6.5 furlongs. I thought the race was wide open, spreading. I think that the pace, the 3-horse, could be really difficult on the lead. Doesn't have a very good EquinEdge morning line, but and this horse, they don't come back very often and break their maiden after breaking their maiden and win against winners. So I'm going to go away from the 3. I do think there's some pace in here. And, I think down the hill, horses have been winning from off the pace and also on the pace or in front. But these are the horses I'm going to use. I don't love anyone in particular, to be honest with you, but I've got 1, 4, 5, 8, and 9.
Okay, big spready approach there, but you are including Benny's top pick, the number 9 Delmona. Let's head out to our last race of this section of the show, the pay leg of both the Golden Hour Pick 4 and Double. We've got a starter allowance race going a mile on the synth here for race 9 at Golden Gate, 8:30, the scheduled post time. Scotty, we're going to throw it right back to you to ask you the key question: how are we going to get paid?
Well, I think this race is all about the 3-horse explosive and a man's man, the 4-horse. And I'll tell you why. First of all, the 3-horse has the top genetic strength rating, GSR. The 4-horse is 2-1 on the EquinEdge morning line from a 6-1 odds makers morning line, Matt Ditterman's. And then the 3 and 4 are co-top EE win percentages and top strength of race, SOR, and 2 of the fastest horses in the race, and also EquinEdge's top 2 picks. I mean, just everything is leaning towards the 3 and the 4-horse.
All right. Benny, is it as simple as that to close things out in this week's Golden Hour Pick 4?
I'm with Scotty in that I like the 3. The 3 is proven over the synthetic, is fast, can close. O'Neill's been sending some horses up there that certainly seem live, so have nothing bad to say about the 3 and agree with him. Potential weirdo at a big number for me would be the 5, Champagne Pegasus. I do think that there is an injection of pace in here, and maybe you get something out of a live barn that can come rolling late. Didn't really have any real target last time, and then has been running some other races where maybe just didn't fire, wasn't good enough. But you never know. You could get a meltdown. 15-1 is so juicy. I know the horse is a little camera shy. He's 1 for 22, but he does seem to pick up some pieces. And if things cut the right way, he could be interesting. And it certainly seems like the Golden Hour is such a great bet. We always get one impossible horse, and it seems to come from Golden Gate a lot. And I don't want to be in the last leg and not cover it up to a horse that could talk about getting paid, really get paid. So I think I'll be throwing in the 5. And then also coming out of the same race, the 7, I think, is a potential logical closer that could roll in. So the 3 is a potential single, and I will be using the 5 and the 7 as Bs.
And the 5-horse, by the way, just on a note on that is also the EquinEdge long shot. So okay. I agree with Ryan. That one seems to have a good look. And also, guys, the Golden Hour wagers, now this wager is really taken off it's getting a lot of publicity, 15% takeout, all 4 races between 2 tracks happen in about 45, 50 minutes. And the pool on Sunday was $275,000 and growing.
Yeah, it's doing really well. It's been a lot of fun covering it all meet long. Hopefully that's going to continue as we hopefully build our relationship with our friends over there at First Racing and Santa Anita and Golden Gate. And it's always a pleasure to have you 2 guys on to chat about this stuff. We look forward to checking out your products more and having you on again very soon in the future.
Thanks for having me, Pete. Appreciate you. Good to see you, Scotty. Let's hit the link soon. Let me know when you're in Scottsdale.
All right. Always. Thank you, Pete. And Ryan, take care. Enjoy yourself out there.
Perfect. Great work. We overcame that little tech hiccup, and
I've never seen anything happen like that before. I'm looking all over. I'm like, I've got full internet, and nothing was working. It was the craziest thing. I don't know what the hell that was.
Well,
So sorry about
better
that.
now, better on this recorded show than during a live stream.
No, that's true. I hope that doesn't happen again. That was really strange. Like I was freaking out. I'm like, I don't even know who to call.
Well,
But thank you. I'm sorry about that. Thank you guys. Ryan,
we had
good
plan
to see
A,
you,
B,
brother.
and C, and we got it done. And yeah, we'll be talking very soon, Scotty and Ryan. We got to chat more too. We got to catch up in real life.
Man, are you going to be at Keeneland at all?
I don't know. My travel
okay.
plans are like incredibly up in the air, more so than usual, because I might be putting an Irish racing trip together in April. So
Okay.
got to see what happens. That might knock Keeneland out for me, but if I don't do that, then Keeneland is likely. And heck, I may just do both. Which weekends are you at Keeneland?
I'm flexible right now. I'm actually waiting to hear back. So they're going to be putting. It depends on what they want. I may show up to do some stuff with them. I know that Scott Hazelton and Gabby have that live show, and I think we're going to have some highlight stuff on the show. So I'd like to get out there and hang out a little bit. So we'll see. I'm kind of flexible is the answer.
Good.
What about you, Scotty? You going to Keeneland, Scotty?
I think I'm going to try to go. I've got so many shows I'm doing. I've been doing the Golden Hour show as well, and I've just had so much going on, and we've had some shakeups here at EquinEdge with some changes in personnel, and so I've taken on more of the load. So it's been so I'm not sure, but Keeneland is one of my favorite places.
I love that place. Well, if you do, text me. Maybe we can hit the links once. So they got to have one golf course out there, right?
Oh, loads.
Okay.
Oh, that place is incredible. Yeah, I'm sure they do.
It's so
good.
Well,
thanks,
we'll all
guys.
meet up. And Scotty, I hope all this business news is for the good. And
it is.
Good.
It is. It's been a shakeup and it's been rough, but it 100%. And I'm not just saying that. It's 100% for the better. Some really good things happening with EquinEdge right now. So I'm pretty pumped. We just had a release today. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
But it's incredible. We changed the race view and the handy view and made it really user-friendly and clean and added more information. We actually have jockeys on the past performances now as well.
How am I gotta see this. I'm in the product right now.
Yeah, look at the past performances. And I also put on there in the past performances, I put the jockey's win percentages as well, so you can compare that to the current jockey.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very
Right?
cool. Well, I will check it all out. I look at it all the time and I love it. And yeah, I'm going to send you some stuff and we'll chat.
Sounds wonderful. I look forward to it. All right, guys.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Have a nice weekend.
Later.
The same. See you.
Last but not least, we bring onto the show a man who we're particularly interested in talking to this week, because not only is he going to give us a little preview of the JRA Races Saturday Night, with more info to come later over at inthemoneypodcast.com, where you can access free past performances as well as more fully formed tips once we get a little closer to the off. But he's also going to talk a bit about the impressive Japanese contingent heading to Maidan. They're actually already there in Maidan, but they will be competing Saturday morning. I'm speaking, of course, from Woodbine, our man for all things related to the JRA, Klaus Ebner. Klaus, how are things?
Good, PTF. I do.
You had a good month since last we spoke to you?
Yeah, can't complain. So,
you often find a way to, though, but you're not going through this time.
Yeah, no Debbie Downer for me this week. But, hey, I think the biggest thing is that on the racing side for Woodbine is the government's allowing us to run finally in the month of April. So that's always a plus, right?
Huge thumbs up on that. Thumbs up on that. And hopefully big news coming soon about the In the Money Media and Woodbine partnership. But we're kicking off our partnership with our collaboration on these JRA races for Saturday night. But is there any Woodbine news to report? I mean, beyond that, was it in doubt still? I'll be honest with you. I was blissfully ignorant that there was still government wrangling going on.
No, we look to be okay right now. We've jumped through the proverbial 85,000 hoops, and we look to be on track. We've had horses ship in already down to the backstretch, so it's all about just getting things going and preparing for racing starting in about 3 weeks or so.
Be interesting to see if some of these horses coming up from Florida who've now been running on Tapeta down there, to see if that helps them, if maybe they've lost conditions or more, further along in their form cycle. It's going to be interesting little X factor when evaluating the start of the Woodbine meet, the relationship between Woodbine and Gulfstream. We'll follow that as it goes along. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to chat about the JRA Races Saturday Night. Let's start there. What do we have on tap in terms of the biggest races we're going to be seeing?
Yeah, so the biggest race on the card will be the Grade 1. Again, this is the race I always have an issue with every year, is the Takamatsu no Miyakinen, which is the 6 furlong turf sprint. What's interesting, though, for this week, as opposed to usually when we see in Japan, is that a lot of the top jocks are actually in Dubai. So Christophe Lemaire, Mirko de Miro, Yuga Kawada. So usually some of the cream of the crops actually in Dubai, riding some of the Japanese connections horses there. So that leaves I'm not saying, the inferior guys, but, it's just left a bit of musical chairs with the rest of the jocks, top jocks that are left in Japan looking for some of these rides. So again, it should lead to some, I think, better prices on the undercard, because usually people will kind of look at the card and go, okay, who's Christophe Lemaire riding, who's Mirko de Miro riding, who's Yuga Kawada riding, and sort of hedges a lot of their pick wagers or wagers on those sort of elite jockeys, if you want to call them, in Japan. Again, not saying the rest of the jockeys are slouches, but for the most part, those are 3 of your top riders in Japan at this moment, being Lemaire, Kawada, and Mirko de Miro. So,
it's a good point, and we talk about that factor all the time. It's not that. Look, I mean, I believe in terms of race design that jockeys are a very important handicapping factor, but even those who dismiss jockeys as a handicapping factor are typically doing so because they're so priced into the market, and the market does such a good job of evaluating their value. So you take that out of the mix, and there absolutely is an opportunity to get some prices. And I imagine when you do your write-ups on Saturday on the InTheMoneyPodcast.com blog, that's one of the factors you'll be looking at.
For sure. And to that point, like I said, let's just again emphasize that the remaining jockeys are no slouches. You have multiple Grade 1 winners in there, so they're going to be ridden by world-class jocks that are still running in Japan that haven't gone over to Dubai. So again, it's a good race. We're going to see some of the horses come back from those that ventured over to Hong Kong. So some of the horses that ran in Hong Kong. Some of their grade 1s in December will actually be in this race. So we see the likes of Resistencia. So she's now a 5-year-old mare. She's going to be one of the top, if not top, horse in terms of the betting market. So I think right now in Japan she's like 1.6 on the odds board, and that's to be expected. She is, in my opinion, right now the class of the field. She has a lot of qualities in terms of being able to be placed anywhere in the race, and she was a unlucky second place finisher of this event last year. So I think she's the one that a lot of people will lean to in terms of selections. I probably will go with her as well, just because the class that she has. She's lost to a lot of good horses like Gran Alegria and a few others last year, so the quality is there. She almost won the Hong Kong Sprint last year as well. So I think, in my opinion, she's the top horse in there, but there are others to look at. She's not the only one. The interesting part was after the draw is that 2 of the 4-year-olds that were kind of up and comers to be older horses now, they're drawing the parking lot. So both Grenadier Guards and Mekiel, both pretty quality 3-year-olds, and they both have a lot of things going for them, but their chances certainly weren't helped with drawing the parking lot with the 2 outermost positions. So that should help the wagering. It won't really help you in regards to Resistencia because she has drawn more towards the inside. But there are a few others in here I'm looking at. Speaking of horse that went to Hong Kong, you have the horse in the form of Salios. Those who didn't know, this is a horse who banged heads with Contrail during his 3-year-old career or campaign. He won a Grade 1 as a 2-year-old, the Acai Futurity, and again finished second in the Guineas to Contrail, second in the Derby to Contrail. And 2021 was supposed to be his year to shine. He was supposed to step up and kind of put in the performances we thought he was going to put in terms of being the heir apparent to Contrail once he sort of was on the shelf. So he didn't really step up. He put in a few lackluster performances, a few 5th and 6th. So nothing really to kind of scream out and say, he's back to his old self. But I think he put in a pretty good effort in the Hong Kong Mile last year, finishing 3rd in December. I think the cut back to 6 furlongs will help him for a chance to kind of restart his career as sort of a sprinter miler. And the fact that, speaking of jockeys, he's going to have a jock on its back that has ridden him as a 2-year-old to Grade 3 wins. So there are a lot of things to like about him. He did draw the rail, which can be a plus or minus in Japan, depending on how chopped up that inner turf is on the rail. But I think the price would be right. It'd probably be around the 6-1 range for him. And then another one looking at here, Pete, was a horse in the form of Le Halea. This horse finished 16th last time out, but prior to that was on a 4-race win streak, including a score in the Grade 3 Keeneland Cup, who's usually been one of the sort of marquee races, non-Grade 1 marquee races for sprinters in Japan. The connections really after that race said, okay, fine, we're going to put on the shelf, point for this race. She has drawn well again towards the inside and should be in a stalking or even on the lead position. So again, I'm not saying Resistencia can be beaten in here. I think she's probably going to have this field over a barrel for the most part. But there are others in there that probably will offer a little bit of meat to the back end of the exotics.
Right, some to go with in terms of your vertical exotics, even if you're going to get very skinny at the top of your ticket. For much more on the JRA Saturday Night, check out inthemoneypodcast.com Saturday afternoon. Klaus and the team will hopefully be there with thoughts and analysis. And again, there should be PPs there as well if you want to look at some of these races yourself. As we've seen, just incredibly important form lines for international racing coming out of Japan, and many of them will be on display Saturday morning in Dubai. Probably do a whole podcast just on this next question I'm about to ask you. But just from a very high level, Klaus, who are the Japanese runners you're most interested in betting Saturday morning in Dubai?
So for me, I'm going to be going with probably Stay Foolish again in the Dubai Gold Cup. I thought he had you could question who he was beating in that race in Saudi Arabia in the Red Sea turf. But in his current form, Lemaire aboard him again. He took no prisoners, went to the front, and just romped at that event. I don't think there's world beaters in this race. I know the Godolphin has that one horse and slightly raced, but I think that in terms of quality, I think Stay Foolish is right there. And it's funny because Stay Foolish, in Japan was sort of win phobic. Finishing second, third, fourth, fifth around there, but it's kind of emulating his sire, that being Stay Gold. And Stay Gold actually was a winner on the Dubai. He won the Sheema Classic, I believe, in 2001. So let's hope he can emulate his sire in terms of winning a big race in Dubai. So he's one to look at. Will he be a longer price? I don't think so. He'll probably be, probably second or third choice in that race, but still, you'll probably get some half decent odds in the world pools as they are. So he's one I'll be looking at. In terms of other races, people will be probably looking at the UAE Derby because there is a 4-prong attack, if you will, from Japan in that race. One horse I'm looking at is a little longer price horse, and that's the form of Crown Pride. Crown Pride, 6th last time out in the Hyacinth. So those who don't know, Hyacinth, one of the Derby preps in Japan for when we say Derby preps, they're for the Kentucky Derby preps in Japan. 6th last time out. The winner of that race was Combustion. Combustion is back in here for this UAE Derby. But with Crown Pride, I just wasn't sold on him at being a miler. He won both of his races prior to that, including Allowance Company score over 1.1 miles. So I think he wants to go this long and longer. So I'm willing to throw out his last race. He had a kind of slow start. Got shuffled back. His prior races, he was kind of up there, sitting second, third in the races. So in terms of being placed in the race, I think he'll have an advantage over some of the other ones. The forms of Sekifu, who I'm sure a lot of people will be looking at, who finished second. That he closed from the clouds in that Saudi Derby. I'm still not convinced that Sekifu is a 1 mile and 3/16 horse based on his pedigree. There's another one in there from Japan in the form of Reiwa Homare, who lost by a nose to Sekifu in November versus Lowens Company. So if you use Sekifu as a sort of form reference, Reiwa Homare only lost by a nose for him. He's a bit bred. He's bred more to be, a 1 mile and 3/16 horse, in my opinion, being by Derby winner Deep Berlante. So should have no issue with it, and he'll probably be twice the price. He also gets the Lemaire on him to ride. So, out of the Japanese horses, I think Sekifu and Combustion will take a lot of money. But I believe that Reiwa Homare and Crown Pride will probably offer, to me at least, a lot more value to those two in terms of the betting.
Super interesting read on that one. We just have a few minutes left, Klaus, but there's so many more runners to cover. I want to, at least at a high level, get your thoughts on some of the ones we should be paying attention to in some of the bigger races later in the card.
Sure. So Red Lizelle goes without saying he's going to be one of the favorites in the Golden Shaheen. I think he has a really big chance in there, provided there's enough pace up front. And then if we go to kind of the last 3 races, Dubai Turf. Schnellmeister and Pantelas are very good horses in Japan. I think a lot of people will be looking at Schnellmeister as kind of the horse from Japan, but
Yeah, you've tipped before on these very airwaves. You're the reason I'm aware of Schnellmeister, and I think looks really strong in this race.
I have Pete, but you know what? I think Pantelas is the real deal. I think this horse is a freak. I've watched his races in Japan at distances that have, for me, he's like a lure type. He goes to the front, takes no prisoners, takes his horse, takes the field as far as he can. He's not cheap speed. I think he honestly, if these guys leave him alone on the front end, he could be long gone from home. That's just my opinion. I know the track hasn't been playing that well to front runners in Dubai in terms of the lead up to this event, but he's a freak. I really think he's a freak, and he could surprise a lot of people. Will it be a long odds? I don't know, because obviously the whole people backing Japan horses now based on their experience playing them in Saudi. But I think Pantelas is the real deal, and he could be long gone, turning for home with Schnellmeister and other chicks him down. So that's my who I think is my pick in the Dubai Turf. And then if you go to the Sheema Classic, that's a pretty strong 5-prong approach from the Japanese contingent. My horse in there, I'm kind of a rider out with this guy. Is Authority. He ran very well in the Saudi race. Obviously, he won that day. I think it was 2-1 in North American pools, so not that great. But I think he'll drift up a little bit here in this event. Lemaire gets aboard again. He's done nothing wrong. He put in a good effort in Japan Cup, finishing second to the brilliant Contrail, and then put in a great effort in that Saudi race as a prep for this. So out of all the contingent from Japan, he's probably my selections. People like Glory Vase as well. Glory Vase is a very well traveled horse. He enjoys traveling outside of Japan. He isn't great in Japan, but loves Hong Kong for sure. Finishing as the winner of the Hong Kong Vase. I think he's a shot, especially with Sumion getting aboard. One horse I think will take a lot of money, but I'm not really convinced of him being a mile and a half horse is Sharir. So he won the Derby last year, beating Euphoria by a nose. I'm still not convinced he's a mile and a half horse. He can prove me wrong and beat this field, but I just don't think that mile and a half is really the distance he wants to run. Yeah, again, he won the Derby, but I think the Japan Cup effort was more a true evaluation of his talent versus quality older horses. So for me, Authority will be in there. And interesting horses for me as well is Stella Voce, hard knocking horse, comes in off second place last time out in Grade 3 Nikkei Shinsenhai. But that race, he was as fresh as hell. He was really geared up at the start. I just think the price will be right, and that you're going to get better odds on Authority and Stella Voce than you will on some of the others. And then, of course, you can't ignore the Oaks winner, that being Uberleben, one of the top 3 fillies in Japan last year. She's more of a grinder, so not sure the race shape really help her here. With it doesn't appear to be that much speed in here, but hey, you're going to find worse 30-1 shots or 20-1 shots in a race.
No doubt about it. Keep it moving to the to the end of the card.
And then last but not least is Chua Wizard. The old man keeps doing it. Comes in off of a 4-length win last time out in Kawasaki. Is he still up to the class of these horses in Dubai? This is a different field this year, Pete. He finished second last year, and but you know what? I don't think he was beating much last year when he finished second. Someone had to finish second, and it was just him because he was kind of up there near the pace. He's a year older. He's still a classy, hard knocking horse. I don't know. I've never been super sold on Chua Wizard, even in Japan. Obviously he's a classy horse. He runs his race and he does well. But for me, I'll be probably looking at some of the other horses in this race. Will I have probably a saver of $5 on Chua Wizard just in case something crazy happens? Sure. But in terms of him versus the U.S., I think he's over the barrel, unfortunately.
Not going to be easy. Not going to be easy this year. As you point out, I think it's a much saltier renewal. But that's a great overview of those runners. We'll look to more for you on the website, Klaus. We're going to have you back on these airwaves soon. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Pete. Have a great day.
That's going to do it for this edition of the show. I'd like to thank today's guests, and we had a few of them. Starting way back when with Matt Bernier, we had Jessica Paquette, Nick Tammaro, Benny Southstreet, Scotty McKeever, and last but not least, our man, Klaus Ebner. Reminder, there's other content out there if you're interested. Deep dives on our Plus service on both the Dubai World Cup night card, coverage of every race on the card, in-depth institutional analysis from our guests on that one. And then we've also got special full card coverage at Fairgrounds as well with the legendary Frank McGoey, who will entertain and inform you as well. Special thanks to producer Craig for pushing all the right buttons on this show. This show has been a production of In the Money Media. Our business manager is Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.